Welcome. It's 12, just past 12 o'clock, and thank you all for joining the session. So this is exactly what you need: search strategies and accessing sources. And I have a couple of little activity slides that we can kind of skip over. We'll get back to them later. But just by way of introduction, my name is Jennifer Rempel. I'm the Information Literacy and Resource Access Librarian here at AU Library. And again, welcome to the session. What we'll do this week, and when I click the forward button, it seems to be skipping multiple slides. Okay, so the agenda for today, 30-minute session. We'll do a brief session 1 review. So last week was AU has a library, where we talked about a couple of things about using the library website, things like that. We're going to talk a little bit about parts of a journal article citation. We will then go on to discuss Boolean searches, where to search, and then at the very end, very crucially, I'd say finding full text. So we'll get on with that, and I will move my slides forward. I see a couple questions in chat about the Jamboard link. I will resend that link in a second when we get to it. I was just kind of posting it. If you scroll to the top of chat, you should be able to see it there as well. Okay, so just a brief recap of last week. So we did discuss library catalogs versus library databases. So of course, library catalogs, that's where you're going to find physical items in our actual physical collection up at Athabasca. And we also have books and ebooks there, things like DVDs, CDs, that kind of thing. Our library databases these are our online collections of subscription materials. So these are periodicals, which will include scholarly academic journals, newspapers, magazines, that kind of thing. So anything published on a periodic basis. We'll get into Discover a little bit, because Discover also is a way to search through our library catalog in addition to some, but not all, of our databases. So we also discussed last week articles, journals, and databases. Again, this will be useful for a bit of a refresher from last week. So of course, a journal article, scholarly article, is a study, original research study written by an expert or experts in their discipline. Articles are typically published in journals. So journals, again, are usually subject-specific collection of usually peer-reviewed items that are published sort of on a periodic, as they say, basis, maybe 12 times a year, twice a year, that kind of thing. And then these journals are then collected into databases, which we subscribe to electronically. Of course, print journals still exist, but not really relevant, not as relevant in our context, in our online situation here. And again, these are collections of journals that you can access through our library subscriptions. This will become a bit more clear, I hope, as we go. So when you're wanting to find full text in particular, before we really get into our searching today, we want to clarify, continuing on from last week with our terminology, just what are the parts of a journal article citation? So when you're looking for full text of an item, you need to know specific details, metadata they call it, right? Data about data, information about an article that was published. So we want to look for, you want to distinguish what the title of the journal is in which an article was published. Of course, you want to know the authors of the article, what's the title of the article itself. So the journal title and journal article title often get mixed up. So you want to make sure you have those clear in your mind. And then volume, issue, and publication date and page numbers. So when you're looking at a periodical or a scholarly journal, typically they publish multi-volume. So volumes are often divided by year, and they release a set number of issues within that year. But I will show you what this looks like as well. So these are parts of a journal article citation. And if we take a look here in the screen cap, getting a bit ahead of things, but this is sort of just to show you what it looks like once you're in a database. And again, we will return to searching and finding full text, and then a bit more details about where to find databases. But just so you know what it looks like within a database, if you look at this screenshot here, you can see Taylor and Francis online. So Taylor and Francis is a publisher. They provide access to a database. Their database contains very many journals, including, for example, this one here called Environmental Education Research. Now, if you look at here, I've highlighted, you can see Taylor and Francis is the publisher. It's like nesting dolls. They're the publisher. They own the database. Within the database is the journal. And if you look at the journal here, specifically, you can see a list of issues. So we have volumes, and you can see in this case, they publish one volume per year. So in this example, you have volume 29, volume 28, that kind of thing. And then, of course, I've narrowed it even further, whereas if you open up the volume within the database, you can see each issue. And in this instance, the Journal of Environmental Education Research publishes 12 volumes per year. So you can see their volume and issue numbers in addition to information about publication, like the author, that kind of thing. So to dig even deeper, if I went into this database and found an article that I wanted to use, most of the articles you find within a database that are scholarly, they are going to include pretty clearly on the PDF the citation information. Usually when you're in Discover or one of our databases and there's no full text, there will also be citation information there that you can use to track down the item. So in this case, you can see the very top corner, the Journal of Environmental Education Research. They have everything listed, publication date 2020, volume 26, number 4 or issue 4. So that would be like April of 2020, and the page numbers. There is a DOI here that may be relevant in terms of citing. So sometimes APA, I believe, requires a DOI if you're providing that in your list of references, but not necessarily important, but it is for citation, which we can talk about a bit later too. And of course, you can see very clearly the title of the article and then the authors, Eaton and Day. So DOI, oh yeah, that's a question there, good, a good one. A DOI is called a Digital Object Identifier. Virtually all, well, I would say that, I would say, well, that's true. Virtually all new articles published electronically will have a Digital Object Identifier number. And what this number is, it's essentially a universal number because this article was published in this journal, but maybe it was posted in a preprint server or something like that, or maybe it was available elsewhere. So this is just a way to identify specifically, yeah, exactly, like an ISBN, yes. It's a way to identify specifically an electronic publication. So yes, great answer. Okay, so we are going to, and I'm going to actually really quick, I'll send you the link, and I'm not, and actually, unfortunately, I'm not entirely sure that it works. My matching game was kind of in case we had time and to kind of test out a new way of putting activities into this material. But what I'm going to do is just copy and paste this matching game link. This is on your own time. It's just a real quick little, pretty easy, results are private only to you. You can see matching up the part of a citation with the actual information from the article. Okay, so before we get on, now we're going to actually move on to, we have some terminology set, we're going to move on to actually doing some searches. Can anybody else see my search? So the link I shared was in the chat. I didn't actually go to it. You should be seeing a slide that says research question. I hope everybody can see that. Okay, perfect. Okay, if you can't see it, you might need to exit the session and come back. Yeah, if you can't see the slide, that's really strange. It might be an issue. If it's just you, you might need to log out to the session and come back. But I think other people are able to see it. Okay, so our research question, for example, that's whatever, all research starts with a question, right? What is the thing you want to know? And it's not always open-ended. So in this instance, my question is, can having a pet be beneficial for young people experiencing homelessness? So many ways to search this. So, oh yes, I'm sorry, there's a question about slides. I'm going to post the video on YouTube, and I can send you an email with that information, and I can send that out to the group as well after that, once the video is ready. Okay, so what we want to do, of course, is break this down into searchable concepts. So here's where our other link comes in. Again, I don't want to take up too much time with this, but we might just share some of our keyword brainstorming, because what you want to do when you have a research question and you're doing the databases is you will want to come up with as many search terms as possible. So yes, the video, you can watch it on YouTube later on. And I will share a link to our library's YouTube channel as well. So if we have a question here, if you go to our Jamboard, I think I might share my screen and go there as well, because what we're wanting to brainstorm, and what you can do, I'm seeing people joining, great. So what you can do there is you can use a little sticky note. So I'm going to share my screen. You can use sticky notes. Here you go. I hope you can see that. You can use sticky notes to add your idea. So we have some major concepts here. So we want to talk about homeless youth experiencing homelessness, and pets. So try to think of as many keywords as possible that describe pets. And depending how specific you want to be, you can maybe cats and dogs, that kind of thing. So if you see on the left here, you can see sticky notes. You can write a little sticky note, pick a color, type your note, and post it. And I will kind of let the group take off on this. If you go to the top here, you can see this little arrow, next frame. You can key over, so great, animals, perfect. Key over to the next frame. What are some other keywords for young people? Again, you kind of want to think of as many as possible, and think about how a database, or think about how a cataloger or librarian might describe these terms. So we want to avoid slang, we want to avoid terms of disrespect, you want to use terms that are realistic to how somebody might be described. So adolescence, perfect. And then our third concept too is unhoused people. Again, I just want to say with language, what you might find is language changes all the time, and we are always looking for respectful ways to describe populations that preserve their dignity and that are, like I say, respectful. And language changes a lot. What you might find, though, is the databases and the metadata used to describe articles doesn't change as rapidly as our culture does. So you might find this specifically with like First Nations topics. Some of the terms might be considered offensive. So in this instance, we would probably want to use homeless. Perfect, good timing, except some people don't like that. They prefer people experiencing homelessness or unhoused, which is fine. I mean, whether or not you agree with the term, that might be what the database uses. So again, want to think about archaic terminology, but also what's modern. Okay, so we'll go back here. Oh, look, great, adolescents, youth, awesome. Oh, yep, emotional regulation and homelessness, that's good, yep. That's another useful keyword there too. We got some animal keywords, excellent. Okay, so we'll go back to my presentation. And I will stop sharing. And I'll go to my slide, share my screen. Oh, sorry. Back to my slides. Okay. So we will do some sample searches, and I see we're already halfway at halfway mark. Okay, so these activities, good to know, take a bit of time. Okay, so we got to recap, we got to just key through, sorry about this. Okay, so we've come up with quite a few keywords in our Jamboard. So this is our main research question. We can break it down into some concepts here. A couple of the ones that I came up with that I think others found as well are different concepts. So in this case, I've divided it into three major concepts. So we have pets, companion animals, and it depends. When you do an initial search, you kind of want to keep it a bit broader depending what your topic is. So we'll kind of limit it to 3 or fewer per concept. You can probably think of a lot more. Concept 2, young people, youths, or teens. Concept 3, unhoused, houseless, or homeless. So some people on the Jamboards had those as well. So again, keywords first, and then there are further steps to take when doing a search in the databases, which are our Boolean operators. So you want to combine search words with Boolean operators. Sounds complex. Really, it's just or, and not. And again, we'll demonstrate this. So or, it's going to expand your search results because it is using multiple keywords for the same concept. So what we were doing before, pets, companion animals, that kind of thing. And then and is narrowing your results because it's combining, you think of a Venn diagram, it's combining two separate concepts. So you're going to get fewer articles. So if you search for just pets, you'll get millions of articles. But if you search for pets and unhoused youth or pets and youth, you're going to get a narrower set, right? So it's combining two separate concepts to be more and more specific. Okay, so we have not. Not is useful, but I'm really cautious about using it. Frankly, personally in my searches, I rarely use it unless something's coming up that is really specific, but not excludes keywords. So for example, in my keywords, I will just key to the next slide here. Hope you can see slide 14. What I found in my sample searches preparing for this session was that a lot of articles were about pets and the pets of unhoused young people, but they were also they were more concerned with the veterinary care and welfare of the pet. And what my angle here is the benefits or lack thereof, depending what the evidence shows, of homeless youth having pets. So you can exclude veterinary or veterinary care, for example, but I use not very sparingly, because what you can find is that it will exclude results that may be useful to you. So I'm including not here as a Boolean operator. It can be valuable if you have very complex searches, but sometimes you just want to use it very carefully. Okay, a couple more tips here for our searches. So you might notice that I've used quotation marks in some places here. So using quotation marks around multi-word search terms keeps these linked as a single concept. So if you put in companion animal into a database, it's going to look for companion or animal anywhere. So millions of results. This is true of the internet and of Google Scholar as well. So if you're Googling things, you want to be more specific, put quotation marks around it. That will narrow your results quite a lot. And you have a little star symbol. In the databases, this is known as a truncation. Sometimes it's called a wildcard, but basically that will allow you to save a bit of typing, because it can search, this will cause the database to search for every word with that same root. So veterinaire with a star at the end is going to look for veterinary, veterinary care, veterinarians, etc. Be extremely careful with this, because one of our keywords is pet. If you put in pet with a star at the end, you can probably imagine what will happen. You'll find petroleum, petrichor, whatever, like all kinds. I was going to say pterodactyl, but different spelling. But anyway, just be very careful with the truncation, because it will result in it can generate many results that might not be relevant if you're not cautious with it. But I'll show you how to use that later. And then the same with not. Use not with caution. As I said before, it can exclude useful results. And you can also, which I'll show you later, you can use keyword location options in the databases to improve your search results. You'll see some field descriptors, which I will show you in a moment when we get into the actual searches. Okay, so once you have your Boolean operators and our little tricks here, we have pet or companion animal in quotation marks, and youth or young people, quotation marks again, or teen. And again, that's going to look for teens, teenagers. You can probably think of more. Somebody had adolescent in there. That's actually another really good one, but didn't include that today, unfortunately. And then, of course, with our housed, unhoused, or houseless, or homeless, you will also see what the databases prefer as well, because the databases will sometimes provide automatic infill with the search field, so you can get some more ideas there. So we're going to do some searches now live. So I'm going to stop sharing my presentation, and I will share my screen instead. So again, here we are at our Jamboard. Again, excellent work. We'll go to the library. So here's where we're going to begin our search with our strategy. So a couple things to note. Last week, I showed you where databases are. We've changed the wording. I'm very happy. Now it says find databases, so it's very clear. Here's where our databases are. This is for searching within a specific database. Some of you might be familiar with like JSTOR or Science Direct or ProQuest, things like that. What I'm going to demonstrate before I go to some of the specific databases is Discover. So Discover is a little bit different. So Discover itself is not a database. What it is, it's called a federated search or a meta search tool. So Discover pulls in publication information, citation information from our vendors, and it puts it all in one place. And it also searches the web. So it's pulling in all kinds of data for all kinds of material that's out there all over the place. And it's useful because you can see what's out there, get a very good idea what's out there. It also includes information from our catalog. The challenge with Discover is it doesn't always have full text. So what we often hear from students and patrons in general is, okay, I found this in the library database. Why is there no full text? What's going on? Well, it's because there might not be a full text link. So the purpose of the second part of this session is to show you how to find things. So when you're searching in Discover, again, different from our databases, but it's pulling in database information. The best way to do it is to go to Advanced Search first. So I've clicked on Advanced Search, and here's where you can, and I suggest this, if you have a basic simple search, you can start off here, but I suggest this because it has these different fields. So I'm going to and I have a document here, I'm going to copy and paste because it's a little bit easier, and my mouse is broken, I find, so it's a little bit irritating today, but I'm doing the best I can with the mouse. Okay, so pet or companion animal, it's already in here. You will see the automatic fill. Kind of frustrating because it doesn't include quotation marks, and those are pretty important. So pet, companion animal, and youth or young people or teens, teenagers, etc. Okay, young adults, that's a good one. Adolescent. Okay, some good ideas here. If you use this, you want to go back and fill in the quotation marks though. And finally, we want to use our unhoused keywords. So there we go. What you can see here, we have our ors within each box. So or, we have each separate concept in its own box. And then you have the Boolean operator here. There are other ways to structure it, but in this case, I like to do it this way usually. So we have and. So we have pets or youth, or sorry, pets or companion animals and youth and unhoused. So you see our separate concepts with ands. And I'm not going to fill these in first because this is just going to search for these words anywhere within an article, in the PDF, in the metadata, in the abstract, all over the place. It's searching for these words wherever possible. So when you click search, what you'll probably find is an insane number of results. So you can see here, yes, 106,000 results. Way too many to go through. First thing I will show you though is, this is, again, a good way to get a sense of what's out there. A lot of material on this topic. Some things, often when you do a first search, you'll see, well, this isn't really quite what I want. This doesn't really address pets. All right, ways to narrow your search. First of all, I want to show you in Discover, you can limit. You can limit to full text. I always tell people not to do that because, very crucially, there might be something you want. The library or Discover doesn't link to it, but we might have it, and if we don't have it, we can get it for you. So I would say never limit to full text. I almost never do, but you can limit to scholarly or peer-reviewed journals, which most of you will probably have to do because your instructors will ask for scholarly and or peer-reviewed material. So this is pretty good. We've cut out all of our newspapers. We've cut out any books from the library catalog that are on these topics. All we're seeing is scholarly material. But I think you'll find that 4,000 results is quite a lot. A couple of things you can also limit. You can limit by publication date. So 1929, probably not super useful. There might be a book chapter that's that far away. If you only want things from the last 5 years, you can do that here. In this instance, I'm curious about seeing the scope of research. So I don't care about publication year, but many courses, particularly nursing, you will have to use articles within the last 5 or 10 years. So that's good to know about. Here's where I want to show you our fields. As I said, this is searching for these keywords anywhere. So this article, Revictimization Patterns Among Unhoused Youths, probably not about pets, but maybe in the article it talks about somebody with a pet. So it's going to find pets in that article, even though it's not super relevant. So what you can do is limit here. So again, author title, pretty self-explanatory. Abstract is useful because it will only look for those keywords within the abstract. So if the author has said, this article is about such and such and describes it concisely, you can find the keywords there. What I like to use, though, is subject terms. So we'll try this. What I want to do is see if we really narrow it to only articles that are specifically about pets or companion animals and list them in their subject terms. It's very helpful. So we'll do this. We'll do subject terms, and we'll search. And then you can see 134 results. So these articles are specifically about pets, and they should also be about youths and unhoused people, unhoused youths. So you see here, pretty good, a lot of results. Okay, you can narrow it further because as you go through your results, you kind of want to test things out. So this is clearly not fake pets, not what we want. So sometimes you will see maybe an unhoused person or youth were mentioned in the article somewhere, not really what we want. So you can narrow it even further. You take a keyhole approach, broad to narrow. So we've done broad, we've done all of our keywords. We're going to narrow it down by just focusing on subject terms. If we do that, you'll find very limited number of results. So now we have 6 articles. So again, these are specifically about pets of unhoused youths. So very useful. So now we're going to get to, I'm just going to go back though, because I did want to show you some more examples of finding full text. So in this case, you'll see here, radical healing. This looks useful to me. Always click on, when you want more information, you can click on the information here. Okay. So in this case, we want to see there's no full text. Oftentimes there will be a full text link. In this case, there's not. So in this case, how do I find the full text of this article? First thing to do is check the library's holdings. So you want to look at the source, and this is why we went over the citation information so clearly, was we want to make sure we have the title of the journal in which the article was published. So this article, Radical Healing and Precarity, was published in the journal called Youth. Very concise title. To find it, we'll see if the library has access. So we'll go back. This is a bit of a recap from last week too. We have a journal title search. This journal title search is a list of all of the journals the library subscribes to, and also where you can find that. So title begins with youth, going to be a lot. Title is very short. We're going to do title equals. This is the exact title search. Do we have access to youth? Yes, we do. And actually what we find, in this case, it's an open access journal. So what you might find is there are a number of different links listed here. In this case, we do have access to it from 2021 to the present because it's open access. So we can follow through and click on this, open it up, and it will take you to the journal. And in this case, because we have the publication information, we can go back and do a title search and find this. So here we are. We're in the journal called Youth. Do a title search. Again, quotation marks, very helpful. And search. And there we are. And there's a full text. You can click on it and find that. So good way to find full text. I see we're running out of time already. Geez. So if anybody has to leave in about 3 minutes, that's totally fine. I'm going to record the session, as you know, post it on YouTube, but I hope the rest of you can stick around because this is kind of the more important part. It's the full text, not more important, but useful. So here we found, here's where you can find the full text, right? Download, there you are. So we've gone from no full text link to the journal title search, again, searching for the journal in which an article was published. Sometimes you'll find we don't have the journal. So I kind of want to go back again. Oh, too many tabs. We'll go back. And I'll find another example here. In this case, we want to go back to subject, just to narrow it to pets a little bit, because sometimes we don't have access to the journal. So here you'll see find text in full text in Sage. If you click on this, it should take you to the journal. And in this case, what it's done, oh, you'll see this sometimes too. You have to copy the link address and paste it because if you have an ad blocker like I do, it's going to block the PDF. So sometimes you got to do that. You got to copy paste the link and then you see the PDF of the article is opening. There we are. Didn't look like there was a full text, but we do actually have it. And I want to show you really quickly, as we are running a bit out of time too, is the Google Scholar option. So most of these cases we are finding pretty good. There's a lot of full text here. To find an example, in this case, not so much useful. This one, okay, in this case there is a full text through Wiley, but I'm going to just show you this because Google Scholar is extremely useful because the journal title list is really quick. It's definitive, but Google Scholar is frankly way faster. So we'll go to Google Scholar. Something I want to show you. The reason Google Scholar is so useful is because you can do a title search very easily and find full text sometimes. But if you're in Google Scholar and you go to the little hamburger icon on the left and go to settings, you can set up AU library links. So this is a really good hack. So again, library links, click on there, search for Athabasca. Spelling that right? Yes. Okay. Again, library links and search. You want to click both options and save. Okay, so what this does is we are going to find this article. I am in a real rush. I don't have time for journal title search. Put it in Google Scholar, search, and there we are. PDF right there. Very useful. So again, Google Scholar is a quick way to find PDFs. One thing I will warn you about, though, is what we have in the library is access to what are called back files. So say there's a journal that's been published, like the Journal of the American Medical Association, 100 years of articles. Not all of them are online, and not all of them have been digitized, so they're not going to be on Google Scholar. But the library might actually have access through the journal title list. So a couple of ways. The point I want to emphasize here is if you can't find full text, there's a lot of ways to search for it first. So again, you have a journal title search, Google Scholar, extremely useful. And Google Scholar, I frankly use it a lot because it's just fast. So and what I also want to just demonstrate really quickly is finally, sometimes Google Scholar won't have it either. And sometimes we don't have it in our full text either. So what we want to do in that case is do interlibrary loans. So I'm sorry if I'm a bit rushed, but what you'll find is if there's anything that we can't get for you, if you run into a paywall, like if you're asked to pay like $60 for an article, don't do it. Get in touch with us first. If you've exhausted, so try a journal title search, try Google Scholar, even a web search, because sometimes you'll find blog posts in Discover and you can find those online. So do the digging that you can. If you ultimately can't find the article or book chapter you need, what you can do is go to interlibrary loans. So here, go to borrowing resources. Whoop. Interlibrary loans, couple of steps, but this is the fastest way. And then we have an ILL webpage. So it's a bit of a misnomer. Interlibrary loans, we're not really loaning things. For students of AU Library, what we can do is, if there's anything that's printable or scannable, think of a book chapter, an article, conference proceedings, things like that. Anything we can print and scan, we can get for you, probably. I mean, there are rare cases where publishers have things under an embargo, so they will not let anybody have it electronically for a year. If we can get it for you, we will. So if you go to, again, the ILL webpage, and I can post these links later too, click for the student form and fill in as much detail as you can. So if you want to request an article, book chapter, or conference papers, you can do that. So once you've done that, you just want to fill in as much information as possible. Again, useful to know article author, journal titles versus article titles, that kind of thing. So you want to make sure you have the citation information down, but once you do that, you can request this. And then what will happen is our ILL staff person will try to get it from another library and will email it to you. So again, emphasis here is anything that you can't find in full text, we can probably get interlibrary loan. If you have any questions at all, you can contact the library and let us know if you need help. We can track things down for you. It's kind of the basics of what I wanted to show. I guess really quickly before we wrap up, I did want to talk a bit more about databases. So Discover is a good demo search because it's pretty universal and most people go to Discover first thing. We do have our individual databases though. Again, I really want to show you these ProQuest databases. So oftentimes you'll find the challenges we face in the library is that we have all these resources and they're owned by different companies who don't like each other. So for example, ProQuest is a really good provider of library resources, of ebooks and articles and databases, but they don't like EBSCO. They're competing with each other. So they don't want to share their information. So sometimes, in many cases, if you do a Discover search, it's a product owned by EBSCO. They're not going to include ProQuest results because it's a competing company. So again, find databases. This is where you can find all individual databases. If a professor says, look at JSTOR, listed, you can search for it by title, and you can look at subject areas. So just to show you how this works. So ProQuest, as you can see, many different collections. ProQuest, they do eBook Central, very useful. Hundreds of thousands of ebooks there, great. What I like to use, though, personally, is the ProQuest Global Database Search. Extremely useful because it searches all of our ProQuest collections, including the ebooks. So if you click on ProQuest Global, again, this is an individual, again, kind of actually not, that's not true. ProQuest Global isn't an individual database either, but it's composed of individual databases owned by the ProQuest company. So again, if we do pets or companion animals, and I'm typing here a little bit slower, companion animal, and we'll do a basic one. We'll just do, because you can combine, we'll just do unhoused youth. We'll try that. Well, no, we won't do that because it's actually not that great. Youth or teen, just to be real quick. I'm just doing a really basic one again here. Add a row and then houseless or unhoused. Very similar features, right? Search anywhere, we will search within our subject index because again, sometimes you'll find finding keywords everywhere is not useful. So just a real quick search here, and I'll just show you what it looks like in ProQuest, because ProQuest is also extremely useful. Also good about ProQuest is it's all going to be full text, because these are only things, well, it's not entirely true, mostly things we have access to. What I also, what I also like is that you have access to dissertations and theses, which I don't know if there's any on this topic. It depends what you have, but again, scholarly journals, magazines, that kind of thing. So you're seeing some overlap, but some new stuff. And so we have wire feeds, scholarly materials. Okay, so less material because Discover is searching all over the place, the web, publisher information, all this stuff. And this is searching within ProQuest databases specifically, but the same principles of searching apply within databases and Discover and in Google Scholar as well. So if we go back to Google Scholar, we could do a search again, for example, like, there we go. For example, do a search. You can see what they have here too. And what you'll find with Google Scholar, again, good way to find full text. I don't recommend starting your search in Google. Well, it depends. Google Scholar is a good place to start sometimes because it'll tell you what's out there, and you will find something almost always because it's a little bit more of a natural language search. But it's really hard to filter your results, really hard to do advanced searching, and kind of annoying. And you can do custom ranges, but any kind of filtering is really challenging. But anyway, all of these tips and tricks that I've showed you will work in the databases, in Discover, and on the web. So, all right, again, a bit of a whirlwind here with what I presented. So I'm hoping this is valuable in terms of finding full text. We've gone a bit over time, so thank you all for sort of staying for the last 7 minutes.